I still remember their laughter. Sharp, cutting through the air of that stuffy conference room as I packed my things into a cardboard box. 22 years at Harmon and Associates, and it ended with snickers and sideways glances. Too old, they said. Not adaptable enough. But they didn't know about the man on the 43 bus. They couldn't have known that my entire life was about to change because of a simple act of kindness on my morning commute. It was a Tuesday in October when I lost my job in Portland. The rain was coming down in sheets, the kind that seems to find every gap in your clothing. I was 58, suddenly unemployed, with a mortgage, a daughter in college, and a skill set that everyone kept telling me was outdated. I thought that was rock bottom. I was wrong. The real bottom came 3 weeks later, at my brother's retirement party. I just needed to keep up appearances for one night. One night of pretending I wasn't drowning. Then he walked in, the man from the bus, and everything I thought I knew about failure and success turned upside down. This is the story of how I lost everything I thought mattered, and found something I didn't know I was looking for. In my family, success wasn't just encouraged, it was expected. My father built his accounting firm from nothing after returning from Vietnam. My mother managed the home with military precision. Everything had a place, including their expectations for their 3 sons. My older brother, James, was the golden child. Stanford undergrad, Harvard business, partner at a prestigious consulting firm by 35. My younger brother, Michael, the creative one, built a thriving architecture practice in Seattle. Then there was me, Richard, Rick to most, the middle child who'd spent over 2 decades climbing the corporate ladder at Harmon and Associates, only to be pushed off just before reaching the top. Dad never said it outright, but his pride was reserved for achievements, not effort. Results, Richard. Nobody remembers who tried hard, he'd say, examining my report cards even when they were mostly A's. Mom would soften the blow with a quiet, "He just wants what's best for you." But the message was clear. In the Ellis family, second place was first loser. I remember my first real taste of family humiliation. I was 16, presenting my business idea at our annual family Thanksgiving dinner, a tradition Dad started to prepare us for the real world. I'd spent weeks researching a lawn care service for our affluent neighborhood in Lake Oswego. I had projections, customer acquisition plans, everything. Halfway through my presentation, Dad checked his watch. "This is all very nice, Richard, but where's the scalability? Michael's app concept from last year had potential to reach thousands. This seems limited." The turkey grew cold as everyone watched me fumble through unprepared answers. That night I overheard him tell Mom, "He thinks too small. Always has." Then there was my wedding to Sarah. I'd waited until 32, until I had a respectable position and savings. The reception was at the Portland Yacht Club, Dad's suggestion, though we rarely sailed. During his toast, he smiled at my new wife and said, "You got the dependable one. Not the star, but he'll never let you down." People laughed. Sarah squeezed my hand under the table. When our daughter Lily was born, I vowed to be different. I'd celebrate her efforts, not just her outcomes. I'd show my father that success could look different than his narrow definition. That became my grand gesture. I would rise so high at Harmon that even he couldn't dismiss it. Senior VP by 50, maybe even COO by retirement. I'd prove I wasn't just dependable Rick. What nobody knew, not Sarah, not Lily, not my brothers, and certainly not my father, was that I'd been working on something on the side. A software platform that simplified complex supply chain logistics for small businesses. 5 years of nights and weekends, teaching myself coding alongside business students half my age at community college classes. This was my secret, my ace in the hole. The thing that would finally make Frank Ellis say, "I was wrong about you, son." I kept it secret because I couldn't bear the weight of potential failure under my father's watchful eye. Better to present a finished success than an ongoing struggle. Drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from. Sometimes I wonder if stories like mine resonate differently depending on where you call home. My brother James's retirement party was set for November 17th at his lake house in Dunthorpe, one of Portland's most exclusive neighborhoods. The irony wasn't lost on me. My older brother retiring early at 60 while I was scrambling for job interviews at 58. Sarah kept telling me we could skip it, that family would understand given my transition period, as we'd taken to calling my unemployment. We can't miss it, I insisted while ironing my one good suit. Dad's flying in from Arizona. The whole family will be there. Sarah studied me from the doorway. You haven't told them yet, have you? I focused on a stubborn wrinkle. I'll tell them when I have something new lined up. No sense worrying everyone. The morning of the party, I rehearsed explanations in the shower. I'd say I was consulting now or exploring opportunities. Anything but fired or laid off. I practiced smiling until my cheeks hurt. We arrived precisely on time, a family requirement. James's house was lit up against the November darkness, windows glowing with warmth and success. Cars I recognized as belonging to cousins, uncles, and family friends lined the circular driveway. My father's rental, a Mercedes of course, was prominently parked near the entrance. Uncle Rick. My niece Claire met us at the door, champagne flute in hand. Grandpa's been asking when you'd arrive. I felt Sarah's hand on my lower back, steadying me. Dad was holding court in the great room, surrounded by my brothers and their wives. At 83, he still stood military straight, his white hair perfectly combed. He nodded at my approach. Richard. Cutting it close. Traffic on macadam was backed up, I lied, shaking his hand. James was just telling us about his plans. Global sailing trip, then consulting for his old clients at triple his former rate. He clapped my brother on the shoulder. That's how you exit a career, on your terms. I felt the first prickle of sweat under my collar. The evening progressed like a slow-motion car crash. Every conversation circled back to careers, to success, to the futures my brothers were building even as they stepped back from their primary jobs. Rick's been putting in the hours at Harmon, Sarah offered during dinner, loyal as always. They've been relying on him more than ever. My father brightened. Finally moving up? What's the new title? I took a long sip of water. Nothing official yet. I'm heading a special project. Technically not a lie. My logistics platform was special to me, even if Harmon knew nothing about it. At your age, if they haven't made it official, they're stringing you along, Dad pronounced, cutting into his steak with surgical precision. You need to force their hand or walk. Michael chuckled. Classic dad advice. It worked for me in Seattle. James nodded. Me too, when I made partner. I felt the room tilting. The special project I'd been nurturing in secret was weeks away from beta testing. I'd planned to approach investors in the new year, maybe even quit Harmon voluntarily. Now there was no safety net, and I wasn't ready. Speaking of careers, my cousin Thomas chimed in from across the table. I heard there were major layoffs at Harmon last month. Didn't hit your department, did it, Rick? The table went quiet. All eyes turned to me. They restructured some divisions. I managed, voice steady. Restructured? Thomas pressed. My neighbor Carol's husband was VP there. Got cut after 20 years. They're clearing out anyone over 50 from what I heard. I felt Sarah tense beside me. Dad's gaze sharpened. Richard? He asked. Just my name, but waited with expectation. The moment stretched. I opened my mouth, unsure what would come out, when the doorbell rang. That's odd, James said, checking his watch. Everyone's here. His wife went to answer. I used the distraction to excuse myself, claiming a bathroom break. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall, breath coming short. I needed air, needed to regroup before going back to that table of expectations. As I headed for the side door leading to the deck, I heard James's wife at the front entrance. I'm sorry, we're having a private event. I understand, came a strangely familiar voice. But I need to speak with Richard Ellis. It's urgent. I stopped, turning toward the foyer. And there he was, the man from the 43 bus. The one I'd helped that rainy morning 3 weeks ago, the day I was fired. Please subscribe to our channel and like this video. We're so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, and your support means the world to us as we share these stories. I stood frozen in the hallway as Terrence Chin stepped into my brother's foyer. He looked different from the man I'd met on the bus. Gone was the worn backpack and rain-soaked jacket, replaced by a tailored suit and confident posture. But I'd recognize those intelligent eyes anywhere. "Mr. Ellis," he said, spotting me. "I apologize for the intrusion." By now, the dinner party had grown curious. Chairs scraped as people rose to investigate the commotion. My father emerged first, followed by my brothers. "Richard, who is this?" Dad demanded. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. How could I explain that 3 weeks ago, on the morning I was fired, I'd helped a struggling stranger navigate Portland's bus system? That I'd paid his fare when his card was declined? That we'd spent the 40-minute ride talking about supply chain inefficiencies because I needed to talk about anything except my own failure? "I'm Terrence Chin," he introduced himself smoothly. "CEO of Nexus Venture Capital. Your son and I have been discussing a business opportunity." My father's eyebrows rose. "Business opportunity?" Terrence looked at me questioningly. Understanding dawned in his eyes. "You haven't told them?" The entire family had gathered now. Sarah appeared at my side, confusion written across her face. "Told us what, Richard?" My father's voice had that familiar edge, the one that had made me shrink since childhood. I felt something snap inside me. 22 years at a company that discarded me like yesterday's newspaper. 5 years developing a business in secret because I was afraid of this exact moment. Of potential failure under my father's judgmental gaze. Decades of being the dependable son, never the star. "I was fired," I said, the words surprisingly steady. 3 weeks ago. Budget cuts targeting senior management. My entire division was eliminated. The silence was absolute. Then my cousin Thomas spoke. "That's what I was trying to. I didn't want to tell anyone," I continued, cutting him off. "I didn't want to show up to James's retirement party as a failure." "Son," my father began, his tone softening uncharacteristically. "Nobody thinks you would," I interrupted. "You always have. Results, Richard. Remember? Well, here's a result for you. 22 years of loyalty rewarded with a cardboard box and 15 minutes to clear out my desk." I saw James and Michael exchange uncomfortable glances. My father looked genuinely shocked. "But that's not the whole story," I continued, my voice gaining strength. "For the past 5 years, I've been developing a logistics platform for small businesses. Nights, weekends, early mornings. I taught myself to code. I built something from nothing." I turned to Terrence. "And 3 weeks ago, on the worst day of my professional life, I helped a stranger on the bus. A stranger who turned out to be one of the most successful venture capitalists in the Pacific Northwest." Terrence nodded. Richard explained his platform to me during our ride. It was impressive, solving problems I've heard countless small business owners complain about. I gave him my card, but he never called. "I wasn't ready," I admitted. "The platform needed work. And then I was busy trying to find a new job, trying to pretend everything was fine." "We tracked him down through Harmon," Terrence explained to the room. "I wanted to see the platform in action. What I saw convinced me to make an offer." My father stepped forward. "What kind of offer?" I looked Terrence in the eye. "Tell them." $3 million in initial funding. 20% equity stake. Resources to scale nationwide within 18 months. Terrence turned to my father. "Your son has built something remarkable, Mr. Ellis. Something that will help thousands of struggling small businesses compete with the giants." The room erupted in exclamations and questions. Through the chaos, I watched my father's face, shock giving way to confusion, then something I'd rarely seen directed at me, respect. But it was too late. Too many Thanksgivings watching my presentations be dismissed. Too many backhanded compliments about being dependable rather than exceptional. Too many decades feeling like I was competing for approval that would never come. "I need some air," I announced, cutting through the noise. I walked past my stunned family, past Terrence, and out onto the deck overlooking the lake. Behind me, I heard my father call my name, but I didn't turn back. For the first time in my life, I wasn't chasing Frank Ellis's approval. And it felt like freedom. The sliding door opened behind me. I expected Sarah, but it was my father who joined me on the deck. He stood beside me silently, both of us watching the moonlight on the water. "You should have told me," he finally said. "Would it have mattered?" I asked. "Would it have changed how you see me?" He gripped the railing. "I've always been proud of you, Richard." I laughed, a short, bitter sound. "You've been tolerant of me. There's a difference." "Is that what you think?" He sounded genuinely surprised. "That I'm merely tolerant of my own son?" "Not the star, but dependable," I quoted. "My wedding toast, Dad. In front of everyone I knew." He winced. "I meant it as a compliment." "I know you did. That's the problem." We lapsed into silence again. Inside, I could see the family gathered around Terence. Sarah was showing him something on her phone, probably pictures of the platform I'd created. "Your brothers were easier for me to understand," Dad said suddenly. "James was like looking in a mirror. Michael, well, he makes things you can see and touch. But you..." He shook his head. "You were always internal. Quiet. I never knew what you were thinking." "You never asked," I said simply. The door slid open again, and James stepped out. "Rick, this guy wants to see your demo. Says you have it on your phone." I nodded, but didn't move. James studied us both. "Everything okay out here?" "We're talking," Dad said. My brother's eyebrows rose slightly. In 58 years, I couldn't remember Dad ever saying those words about a conversation with me. After James left, Dad cleared his throat. "This platform, explain it to me." So I did. I explained how small businesses struggled with inventory management, shipping logistics, supply chain disruptions. How my software created adaptive algorithms to predict needs, find optimal suppliers, route deliveries. I showed him the interface on my phone, the clean design that hid complex operations. To my surprise, he asked intelligent questions. For the first time, he listened without interrupting or comparing me to my brothers. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "You did this while working full-time?" I nodded. "And you told no one?" Sarah knew I was working on something. Not the details. I didn't want to get her hopes up. "You didn't want to fail in front of her," he corrected gently. "Or me." The insight startled me. Maybe. Inside, the party had transformed. Terence was now at the dining table, my laptop open before him, giving what appeared to be an impromptu presentation to my enthralled family. Sarah caught my eye through the window and smiled. A real smile, full of something like pride. "I pushed you too hard," Dad said suddenly. "All of you. But especially you." "Why?" He stared across the lake. "Because you reminded me of myself at your age." Not James, he had natural confidence. "You had my self-doubt, my caution. I thought pushing would help." It was the most vulnerable I'd ever seen him. This man who'd seemed like a granite monument my entire life suddenly looked human. Fallible. "Dad," I began, but the door slid open again. This time it was Terence. "Sorry to interrupt, but I need to make a call to my partners on the East Coast before it gets too late. We want to fast-track this, Richard." Dad nodded and stepped away. "You should take this call." As Terence explained the accelerated timeline, funding next week, office space in Portland's Pearl District, a development team ready to be assembled, I watched my father rejoin the party. He went straight to Sarah, said something that made her eyes widen, then hugged her. In 30 years of marriage, I'd never seen him hug my wife. Later that night, after we'd exchanged numbers with Terence and promised to meet Monday morning, after the party had transitioned from shock to celebration, my niece Claire pulled me aside. "Uncle Rick, why didn't you ever tell us what you were working on?" I considered her question carefully. I guess I was afraid of failing publicly. She frowned. "But you always told me it was okay to fail. When I didn't get into Stanford, you sent me that long email about how failure shapes us." I blinked, surprised she remembered. "Easier to give advice than live it, I guess." "Well," she said, "I think it's amazing. And Mom's calling you the startup king now." The next few months were a blur of activity. Terence's funding came through exactly as promised. We launched the beta with 20 small businesses across the Northwest, then expanded to 100 nationwide. The feedback was overwhelming. We were solving real problems that had been ignored by bigger software companies. Sarah quit her teaching job to join the company, heading our customer success team. Her insight into user experience transformed our interface, making it even more intuitive. The most unexpected development came 6 weeks after James's retirement party. My father showed up at our temporary office space, looking uncomfortable among the standing desks and whiteboards. "I'd like to invest," he announced. I stared at him. "You would?" "500,000. For whatever percentage that gets me these days." He handed me a check. "And some advice if you want it. Free of charge." I studied the check. "What's the advice?" "Hire your brother Michael to design your headquarters when the time comes." He smiled slightly. "Keep it in the family." That was the beginning of a transformation in our relationship. We didn't become best friends overnight. There was too much history for that, but we found a new footing. He still offered criticism, but now it was specific, actionable, and occasionally paired with praise. By the following summer, Ellis Logic, Sarah's suggested rebrand, had grown to 40 employees. We moved into proper offices. Lily took a semester off from college to intern with us, proudly telling everyone her dad had started the company, in his 50s. How cool is that? The unexpected twist came in September. A larger software company offered to acquire us, $30 million, with me staying on as division head. The team was split on whether to accept. I called my father. "What would you do?" There was a long pause. Then, "What do you want, Richard?" "I'm not sure," I admitted. The money would secure everyone's future. But we're just getting started. "Then you have your answer," he said. "You've never been motivated primarily by money. Neither was I, if I'm honest. We chase achievement because it's proof of worth. But you've already proven your worth. Now you get to decide what success looks like on your terms." I declined the offer the next day. 6 months later, we closed a Series B round at a valuation of $50 million. But by then, the number mattered less than what we were building. Standing here today, 3 years after that rainy morning on the 43 bus, I sometimes wonder how different my life would be if I hadn't helped Terrence, or if I'd hidden my unemployment successfully at James's party. Would I still be sending out resumes, fighting age discrimination, and hiding my true potential? The real irony is that getting fired, what felt like my greatest humiliation, led to my greatest triumph. Not just professionally, with Ellis Logic now employing over 100 people and serving thousands of businesses across the country. But personally, last month, my father came to Portland for Lily's graduation. She's finished her business degree and is joining Ellis Logic full-time, to learn from the ground up, as she puts it. At dinner afterward, Dad raised his glass. "To Richard," he said, "who taught me that success isn't just about results, it's about resilience. And to Lily, who's lucky enough to have learned that lesson from him much earlier than I did. I won't pretend everything is perfect. There are still board meetings where I catch myself seeking Dad's approval in the faces of investors. Still moments when I wonder if it could all disappear as quickly as my career at Harman did. But those moments grow fewer every year. What I've learned is that humiliation only has the power we give it. That sometimes the worst moments of our lives are doorways to something better. And that it's never too late to redefine success, or family, on your own terms. I still take the 43 bus sometimes, even though I could drive or take a car service. I sit in the same seat where I met Terrence. Not out of superstition, but as a reminder, every interaction matters. Every kindness has potential. And sometimes, the people who laugh when you're down will be stunned into silence when you rise again. If you're facing your own moment of humiliation right now, a job loss, a failure, a rejection, remember this. It's not the end of your story. It might just be the beginning of a better one. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories of unexpected transformation. Share in the comments if you've ever had a humbling experience that led to something greater. I read every comment and would love to hear your story. Until next time, this is Richard Ellis, reminding you that sometimes our greatest setbacks are just setups for our greatest comebacks.